Are you filming this? No paper was wasted during the filming of this video. So I write a lot. How do I create so much content even though I have so little time? The answer might surprise you. Hey, what's up? I'm Derek Halpern and you're watching my new daily vlog. I plan on blowing this thing up this year and you're coming along for the ride, so get your game face on. And I got good news today. My man Mark is back, so I can do all sorts of cool stuff with the camera, like zoom. Like, subscribe, and share. It would mean the world to me. I have a lot going on today, but I have a lot of content I need to create because I'm doing this daily vlog and everything. So I want to take you behind the scenes of how I manage to pull it off. So when I start writing, the first thing I do is I pull out my favorite notebook. It's always a Japanese notebook because they have the highest quality paper. It's like a pillowcase. It's amazing. And I don't know why I like it. I just like how smooth it is when I write across the paper. But I always start in my notebook. Then I use a Japanese pen. This pen is like 12 bucks. It's pretty inexpensive actually. I guess maybe that's expensive for a pen. I don't know. Whatever. I use this pen. I like the weight. And I always use 0.5 millimeter ink because I like thin writing. It's always a gel pen and it's got to not smudge when I'm writing because I hate smudges. But that's how I start my writing. It's always on paper first. So a lot of people, when they want to write something, they think they need to create ideas out of thin air. But I don't believe you should do that. Writing starts by looking for writing prompts, and I've got a few of them. Take a look at this. So what you're seeing right here is a vault box filled with index cards. I actually got this idea from my friend Ryan Holiday, who reads a lot of books like I do, and when you read a lot of books, you want to take notes on the books you're reading, but how do you take the notes? Well, I often write the notes right in the book itself, and then I transfer those notes in the book itself to index cards. Let me show you an example. This is an interview between Neil Strauss and Tim Ferriss, and it was actually a Creative Live interview, and here's what Neil Strauss said. The key of writing: I assume no one cares about what I'm writing about. No one cares about me. No one cares about what I have to say. No one cares about the things I care about. And if you just go from the premise that nobody cares, how can I make them care? That's the first paragraph. So this is like a note that I took. And I was actually reading through these notes as I was trying to think about these videos here. But as you can see, I have this vault box filled with index cards with notes just like that in that. So when I first start writing, I'm not trying to come up with unique ideas or anything like that. I'm just going through the notes that I've taken over time. And I take notes about everything. That was like about writing. I've got other notes, like here's something about focus. This is from Michael Lewis on how he writes, actually. I used to get the total immersion feeling by writing at midnight. The day is not structured to write, and so I unplug the phones. I pull down the blinds, I put my headset on, and I play the same soundtrack on 20 songs over and over and over again. It's kind of funny, actually. I listen to the same song on repeat a lot, too. My favorite song is Clarity by Zedd. But I write all these things down. So I start with an idea, I'll kind of read through all these different index cards, and I'll be like, oh, that could be a piece of content that I'm gonna write today. Or the goal really is that when I wanna start writing, I don't try to invent new ideas. I just try to look for ideas that I already thought were interesting. Now this is often what I do when I'm trying to cite other people. There's another thing that I do. That requires me to get my phone, so hold on a second. So in addition to using things like index cards, I often write down personal stories of my life. This doesn't mean I'm arrogant and I think I live the most interesting life, but I often just write down things as they happen. Let me give you an example. This says, PS for personal story, remind me of your name. And it goes like this. I bump into an entrepreneur, I know him for a few years, they say, hey Derek, it's so great to see you. And we chit chat. About 5 minutes into the conversation, they say, remind me of your name. What? It's like you just said my name 5 seconds ago. When it happened, as soon as we ended the conversation, I wrote that right down in my phone. And I'm always writing stuff like this down all of the time. Here's another example of something I wrote down. This is actually a good one. So one of my friends said something crazy happened. I wish I were as witty as you are in these situations. That's it. And all that is PS why I'm so witty. Now the reason why I write this stuff down is because sometimes you're struggling to find a personal story or a personal anecdote to really make your content yours. And for me, I've found The more I write this stuff down as it happens, the more stories I have to share. So if I'm trying to create a piece of content, I've got notes here, I've got notes there, I've got notes pretty much everywhere. I'm not really creating content out of thin air. I'm just assembling content based on what I already have. I mean, look at this video right here. What am I doing? I'm just walking you through my process for creating content. Now, overall, you might be wondering, what types of things do I write down on the index cards or in these stories? One thing is, like I said, I write down interesting facts or quotes or data or statistics on these note cards. In the phone, I often write the personal stories. The reason why I put it on the phone, by the way, is because the most important thing you can do is write it as it happens, because you'll never remember to write it later. So I always like to keep it with me on my phone. The third thing I like to write, and sometimes this goes on an index card, sometimes it goes on my phone, but I like to write observations. Big observations, small observations. I just like to spot things that are happening that I find interesting, and I write them down when I find it interesting. Let me give you an example. If I'm walking down the subway and I see an interesting advertisement that makes me stop and read it, I already can't sleep. I'm less concerned about the ad. I'm more concerned about, why did I just stop and read that? So I'll always take a picture of that advertisement knowing that it got my attention. Sometimes if I'm walking down the subway, if I see someone else stop and read an advertisement, I'll take a picture of that ad. Even though it didn't grab my attention, I'm interested in the fact that it grabbed their attention. Some other things I'll write down. I was going for a walk in the morning, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I saw a dad, a mom, and a son who had to be about 10 or 11 years old. They were all in their workout clothes, and they were running up Central Park West in Manhattan. And I was thinking, like, oh, that's so cool. Like, a family's exercising together before work and school. So I wrote that down. Like, mini observations like this. Now, I don't know how I'm gonna use these observations. The key is to just get in the habit of writing them down. Maybe in 6 months from now, I'm gonna put it in a video like I'm doing right now as an example. But you never know when these interesting observations or stories will become useful to you. And you need to get in the daily habit of writing those observations and those stories down. The same is true for when you're watching videos like this, or if you're watching or reading an article. You need to get in the habit of like writing index cards about all this stuff. I mean, like here. Now here's the thing, the key is to get in the habit of doing this. Don't judge your idea when you have it. Just write it down, judge it later. Because the bottom line is, some of the stuff you write down is gonna be stupid. And that's okay. It's not your place to make the judgment about whether it's good or bad. It's your place to record it and figure out if it's useful later. I sometimes throw out index cards. I sometimes delete notes. It's just part of the gig. You just need the habit of doing it. But how do I actually sit down and create the content? Well, it starts with these little notes and stories. I pull it all together. I'll be like, oh, this will be interesting, this will be interesting, this will be interesting. And then I'll put it all together into a narrative of some kind. And as I'm kind of looking through the narrative, I'll be like, okay, this is interesting, this is interesting, this is interesting, this is not interesting, get rid of it. When you're trying to create content, sometimes you might feel compelled to include every single little detail. But actually, as Neil Strauss said, you gotta assume nobody cares about what you're doing. Nobody wants to read what you're writing. So you have to go through this narrative that you're assembling from your stories and your facts and ask yourself, if I remove this sentence, does the story change? The answer is no. Remove it. Hey! Cut that part! It's putting me to sleep! Alright. You always want to cut everything down to the bare minimum because people won't have the attention span to continue through your content or your video if there's a lot of superfluous stuff. I mean, if you're thinking about this right now, you might think, well, Derek, that's a little hypocritical. You kind of repeat yourself in some of your earlier videos. And you're right, I do, but it's a process. And just knowing that it's there means you get better at it. I'm doing a daily vlog now. I've never done daily vlogs before, so I'm not 100% familiar with what I should cut in or what I should cut out. I'm getting better. Once I put together the story or the piece of content I'm creating after I assemble it, I often test it on people. Sometimes I'll just tell the story to the barista at the coffee shop. Other times I'll hit up one of my employees and say, hey, what do you think of this? Sometimes I'll call up one of my family members or friends and I'll run the idea by them. This is an important part of the content creation process. And the reason why it's important is because sometimes you have an idea that you think is amazing, but nobody cares. And you will never know that unless you first ask somebody's opinion. Now, you can't take their opinion to heart because remember, they're not always your ideal customer. And that's okay, but generally, if you're trying to tell a story and you think it's gonna make someone laugh and you tell 10 people and they don't laugh, it's not funny. At this point, based on some of the early reactions, I'll then decide if I wanna continue through with that piece of content. Sometimes I'll not get the reaction that I want and I'll decide to publish it anyway. Other times I'll get the reaction I want and I'll publish it. Sometimes I just will delete that piece of content. You have to make that gut decision in the beginning. Now, if you've never created content before, you're probably not equipped to make that decision right now, and that's okay. Always get in the habit of shipping the content first and just seeing how people react, and then using those reactions to figure out a better way. And that's how I do it. Now, if you like this video, like my YouTube channel. Wait, can you like an entire channel?
I don't know.
Yo, find a way, like my channel. You know, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and then leave a comment below this video and let me know how you create your content. I'm keenly interested to see how you do it, and I want to know if it matches up with how I do it. And on that note, I'll see you in the next video.